We're standing outside the Church of the Nativity. It's the church that commemorates the birthplace of Jesus. And as beautiful as this church is, the setting itself probably looks very different than the actual setting that Jesus was born into. The actual setting he was born to, as we know in Scripture, that there was no room for an inn, so he was born in a stable. Now, we typically think about a stable as this nice barn on the outside of a home, but in the ancient world, it probably would have looked more like a cave. Just outside of Bethlehem, there are caves that dot the whole mountainside. And likely that was the better dwelling place for animals back in that day that lived outside of these particular homes. And so when Mary and Joseph roll up and there's no room for an inn, this likely became the room where Jesus was born. Now think about that for just a moment. I remember when Lindsay and I were becoming first-time parents, we spent all kinds of time preparing for the arrival of our firstborn child. We got the nursery ready, we got the crib just how we wanted it. We purchased all the necessities of diapers and wipes and car seats and strollers. We were ready for the big day. And I would imagine that Mary and Joseph did their own preparations, and they did all kinds of things to prepare for the coming of their son in the world. But things didn't exactly work out the way they expected. You see, there was a census in the land that they caused everybody to return to their hometown for the sake of the census. Now, when you and I experience a census, they send something in the mail, we fill it out, we send it back, bada boom, bada bing, we're done. But back in the ancient world, you returned to your hometown and there you were counted. And this came at the most inconvenient time for Mary and Joseph. She was 9 months pregnant. And who would have thought when they rolled up to Bethlehem, their hometown, that there were no rooms with their relatives, there were no Airbnbs available, they couldn't find a residence in a hotel or something like that. And so again, this became the place where Jesus was born. It's a very imperfect setting for a perfect God to come into this world. You gotta wonder, what was Mary thinking? I mean, was she thinking about all the things that could have been? Was she thinking about her dashed expectations? Was she thinking about she wished that she could do more for the Son of God coming into this world? Well, the Bible actually records a little bit about what she was thinking. The book of Luke, chapter 2, verse 19, it says this. It says, "But Mary treasured up all these things and pondered them in her heart." She treasured all these things. It's kind of a fascinating perspective that in a very imperfect scenario, she was still able to find hope and peace and joy because she was focused on the perfect one in a season of a lot of imperfection. The reality is that you and I also experience all kinds of things that are imperfect. A lot of unexpected things happen to us in life. It's very unexpected when we receive a cancer diagnosis. It's very unexpected when our kids now have to go to mom's house and dad's house because they're split around Christmas. It's very unexpected when you lose somebody you love, particularly at this time of year. Life oftentimes throws us curveballs, things that we can't expect. They're very imperfect. And if you're in anything like me, oftentimes I get so focused on the situation around me. I get so focused on all the things that didn't go right, that aren't going the way that I wish that they were. But Mary seemed to find perspective. In the focusing on a perfect God, it missed imperfect situations. And it didn't necessarily change her situation, but it certainly changed her heart and it changed her perspective. I think for me, oftentimes I find myself in a place when I get overwhelmed by my circumstances that I tell God over and over again how big my problems are. And I don't frequently enough tell my problems how big my God is. But Mary had this amazing way to hold perfection in her hand and focus on the good and the goodness of God amidst the mess. Now, I assume that this Christmas you've experienced a lot of imperfect types of scenarios. But what would it look like if you too focused on the perfect God that came here in an imperfect reality? It changes everything. It changes our perspective. It allows us to still find joy and hope and peace, even in a difficult season, because He came to us. He's Emmanuel. He is God with us.